Welcome to the Pac-Clone series of videos, The Race to the Finish, 2 of 4. This video is of a technical nature and is intended for technically minded individuals who are interested in programming on the Commodore 64. I am guessing if you're watching this video, you're probably familiar with the series and know what's in store. For anyone that's new, welcome. What I'm doing here is sort of a behind the scenes look at the making of my Pac-Clone game, GPAC Dementia Defender. This is the second video of 4, and today I'll be covering the following topics: the pre-introduction screen to the game, the backstory text, the Easter egg implementation, the text scroller on the pre-introduction screen, and finally adding SID music to your project. But before we get into that, I wanted to give just a few quick updates. First off, so far I only have one person on my waiting list for a physical copy of the game, but I'll need at least 9 more to do another 10-box copy run of the game. I was contacted by the Laxity group, the people that cracked GPAC Dementia Defender over at the Commodore Scene Database website. This is what they had to say. "Nice game you made. We did the whole cracked version without looking at the source code. It would have spoiled the fun if we would have used it. Was fun to see our crack reviewed by you on YouTube. Regards for your work on the game." So then I posed a question on just how did they squeeze in their own graphics, music, and the entire game manual while at the same time reducing the program size, and then they reported back. "Hi Glenn, our work on your game was done in less than 5 hours. We also put a link on the CSDB now pointing to your video. Maybe there are some collectors interested in get a physical copy with your professional packaging. Good work." The size is no magic. Just try Exomizer Packer. And then they provided a link to the Exomizer Packer. It was great to hear from them, and I will definitely have to check out the Exomizer Packer at some point. But anyhow, I just want to thank the Laxity group for cracking my game. And let's jump right into this video's first segment. Alright, in this segment I'm going to talk about that pre-introduction screen that I had mentioned in a previous segment. And this is what I've decided to come up with. I just made a copy of the title screen, and from basically half the screen down, I decided to throw in my keyboard input instructions here and the joystick port that you need to use if you're going to play with the joystick. And rather than exporting this entire screen, I only exported out a little bit of the screen, and then the first half of the screen, for example. And then the second half of the screen, I just programmed it programmatically. I thought that was easier or a better use of the program's memory space. So here in the program code, it's a lot shorter than what a regular screen looks like. Here's my title screen, for example, and then here's what the pre-introduction screen looks like. And then I have a follow-up piece of source code that fills in some of those blanks, and this is version pac38.asm, the very next version up from what I demonstrated in the previous segment. And so I'll show you what that looks like now running. And it's kind of boring, I know, but it creates that randomization effect, and I'll get back to this screen a little later, and all I have to do is press something on the keyboard, and then I'm also going to implement later where you just push the fire button or you move the joystick, and it will also get you to the title screen, which is right here. So while we're on the title screen, let's let the attract mode start, and I'll warp it. And you'll notice that now the title screen, the high score, is now showing when you get back to the title screen. So now the attract mode can be the holder of the high score, and so you can compete against attract mode. And I like that, and you know, you have to be really terrible not to beat attract mode. So, but so if you were to leave this running even in warp overnight, attract will probably only get about 15 to 20,000 at the most. And if you're really good at this, you can get into the hundreds of thousands, if not into the millions, depending upon where I leave the scoring at and the bonus point awards. But So anyhow, that is the pre-introduction screen and the modification I made to include the high score on at the top of the title screen. Alright, in this segment I wanted to talk about the implementation of how I displayed the game's backstory. And if you had watched the prior version of the Pac-Clone video series, I introduced the story, so I'm not going to go into the gory details. But what I had to do in order to implement what I had to do in order to implement this backstory to display, since it's so much text, I had to throw it in. I had to make sure it was all lowercase, because the way I wanted to utilize it was to use this text object on the CBM assembler. And the way I decided to do it was double spaced, one line at a time. And let's, before I go into any of this program code, let's run it just to take a look. Now I did it in a test program first before I put it into the main program. So you see how it's double spaced. Right now it's green text and at the bottom it has the space bar. And then the second screen is yellow text with the space bar. Third screen is cyan with the space bar. And that's it. You hit the space bar and the program ends. So in order to implement that, I had a variable here for each screen. The first screen is this color, 13. Second screen is yellow, and the third screen is cyan. And in the text right here, whenever I got to the end of the line, I put an ampersand. And so that does a double space, brings you to the next line, do another ampersand. And then when you fill the whole screen up, I decided to use the plus key. When you hit a plus key, that means to trigger the spacebar to be printed at the bottom of the screen, and then at the end it just has to be terminated with a 0. And so basically it scans through this text looking for those key items, and in this loop right here. So display backstory changes the background colors, and then it loops through that backstory text and sets all the colors. And the way I'm subbing it is with FFD2, which is a routine to print text. And like character 13 is a carriage return, so it goes to the next line. Let's see, FFD2 right here. So just kind of like you're typing from the keyboard, just spits it out. Now, so anyhow, that's how I decided to implement the backstory. That was the only way to really do it. Well, I'm not going to say it's the only way, but that's the way I decided to implement it. And I went ahead and I threw it in version Pac 39. And so let's take a look at that. So I'm going to hit the space bar. I'm going to select backstory. And then hit the space bar to display it. So now you can read the backstory whenever you get lonely. And then when you are done, it goes back to the title screen and it kind of resets. So that's how I implemented the backstory into the game. So in this segment, I wanted to talk about the concept of being able to unlock a secret from the title screen. A lot of games do that, so this is nothing new, but I just wanted to implement something similar to that. So right now the fastest screen that you can get on, that you can go to when you start the game, is this screen. And it's really not that fast of a screen. And so I have the sound turned off. But it's faster than when you first start out. And so let's go back to the title screen. And so what I decided to do, and you're hearing it here as an exclusive for my YouTube listeners, to unlock the fast map, what you do is you press up, down, left, left, right, right, and then you get the little level warp indicator there. Once you have the level warp, all you can do is hit space or hit the fire button on, or the button on your joystick to start the game. And if you obviously, if you wait too long, it goes into the title, the attract mode. So up, down, left, left, right, right. Up, down, left, left, right, right. Up, down, left, left, right, right. And then that takes you to the fastest map in the game. And obviously I can make it go faster, but much more faster than this. And even this is difficult to control, especially around a lot of the curves. And obviously when you go to this is the very last map in the game. So when you go to this level, you're skipping, of course, all of the challenge maps and everything. So your chance of getting a high score is really abysmal. But anyhow, let's look at the source code pertaining to this. I'll show you how I implemented that. So right here I have an unlock code, and these characters here represent your unlock code. 7E on your joystick is up, 7D is down, 7B is left, left, 7 is right, right, right. And then, so that's what you have to press. This is the order, and if you change the order of this, of course, you're changing the secret code. And the secret code that you actually input as you're playing, or as you're on the title screen, it gets stored right here into these 6 bytes. And so what I'm doing here in this save code, for every time you press something on the keyboard, it calls this routine, and it shifts from right to left. So it's moving this far right 255 over to this one, it moves this one over to here, and so on, and then it stores a new value in this last position. And so that's how it's recording your joystick pressing or presses. And then I have a small sub right here which checks to see if you have a match. So it loads the X with the register with 0, loads the secret code, comma X, compares it against the unlock, master unlock code, and then increments it 6 times. It goes in a loop. Now, if on the other side of this loop, when it's checking it, if it has to check to see if it's a value of 6, that means that you have unlocked it. So let's look at what's calling this. So in the title screen, this is where we're on the title screen source code area. It's checking both the keyboard, but for the unlock you have to use the joystick. So here, this is up, down, left, or right for the joystick, and for each one, if you press up, down, left, or right on the joystick, it goes to this part of the code, and it checks to see if you're already unlocked. If you're unlocked, then it jumps down. It jumps up. If you're not unlocked, it jumps up to the loop. And otherwise, it comes down here and it goes here. Right here is where it subs down to check to save the secret code into those variables I was just showing. And then it checks for the secret code. And then it compares it against 6. If it's not 6, then it's just another button press, and it goes down here. If it is 6, then it displays the warp map unlock text on the screen, and then it sets the Y variable, basically telling the program, and jumps down to skip, which tells the program that the map's been unlocked and to go directly to the unlock map, which is also down here. And you can change the constant right here, unlocked map, and that stores it in the map index. So, you could have the unlock map be, instead of level 17, it could be level 16 or 15 or something like that. But anyhow, that is how I decided to implement a map unlock to quickly jump to a faster map. Alright, in this segment I wanted to talk about the pre-introduction screen. I wanted to jazz it up just a small tidbit, and by jazzing it up I mean adding a line scroller across the top of the screen to display a message. I flirted with the idea of using a smooth scrolling text going across, but the implementation of it was difficult to say the least, and it didn't really have the effect that I was looking for anyway, so I just decided to scroll it just with plain text, not do it smoothly. And here let me pull that up, what I've sort of implemented. Here's the program before implementation. It's just doing it in the very top line of the screen, both the text and the color, just in a loop for 39 or for 40 characters. And it loads my message right here, and it has the colors. So it has the capability of changing the colors as it scrolls. And so let's see what that looks like. And so right now it does one character at a time with a delay. Let's let that display. And you can see how it's white and then it changes to red, and then it has different color possibilities. And it doesn't have to be smooth to get the point across, smooth scrolling. And so right here at the bottom of the program is where I would do an RTS and then just call it in a loop, like while we're waiting for the spacebar to be pressed. So let's pull it up actually implemented in the game. So I have it going a little bit faster, and I moved the color around just a little bit. I changed the text because it was actually greater than 255 characters. And it snazzes it up a little. It gives you something to read instead of just hitting the space bar. And where it says press anything at the bottom, I need to change that to say press space or joystick. And then at the end, it starts over, but not yet. It's not going to start over yet. It's like, wow, you're still reading this? And then it starts over after that. So I think it snazzes it up just a tidbit, and I'm happy with it. So. Alright, so in an earlier segment I mentioned I wanted to jazz up the pre-introduction screen just a little bit. Well, I decided I wanted to jazz it up even a little bit more, and I was researching how to do the SID music, and I wanted to share that here with you. So what you need is a SID song, and you do an ink bin to include the song in with your program when it compiles. And I have created a song using the SID tracker program on my iPad application, and I emailed it to myself and put it in the project folder. And the program's really simple. You have a variable which defines where the music starts. You load a 0 into the accumulator and you JSR to the music. That initializes the music. The next thing you do is to play an actual note from the song, you JSR music plus 3. And this has to be done in a loop. It has to be running continuously. That's why you'll see in a lot of samples on the internet, or if you're researching how to play the music, you'll see it's often ran during the Commodore 64's program interrupt. And that can get really confusing for a novice like me. But the timing has to be just right. So when this runs, I do have a loop, a delay in between, and then it just jumps in a loop. So it runs. This one here is not running in an interrupt, of course. It's just running interactively. And you can adjust how fast the song plays by adjusting this value here in my loop. Basically adjusting how long the loop runs. And so this version is a little faster than the song was intended to run, and when you have the timing off, you end up skipping notes. If it's too slow or if it's too fast, you can end up really distorting the song. So here it goes. Let's play it. Okay, so I interrupted there a little. It's skipping some some notes there, and I'm going to pull up what I've implemented. So I've taken this concept right here, and I've implemented it in a couple of different versions of the Pac-Clone. So let's run this version here. So this runs on the pre-introduction screen. I've decided to place the music there, as opposed to having it run in a background interrupt, which I did place it in the interrupt, and I'll demonstrate that as well. But when you have it there, then to me it becomes annoying. The song isn't that good. Let's be honest. It's my first attempt at doing anything musically, so if anything, it's a very amateurish song. But I was proud of it. So, but. Let's hear it play. It plays a lot slower here, and it opens as soon as I run the program. Pause it. In order to make this work, I wanted it to not be in the program interrupt, at least on this version of the program. So it had to be in between while this was scrolling. So I had to modify a little bit the program code so that it would play the song, scroll the text a little bit, play the song, scroll the text. Excuse me. And it had to do that juggling act. The delays between the two had to be adjusted just right so that the message going across the top wasn't scrolling too fast, and then so the music wasn't playing too fast or too slow. And then when you go to play the game, you hit spacebar, and then the song stops. And that was done, excuse me, that was done just by storing a 0 in, I think it was 5.4. I'll never be able to find the variable. 54272 54296. So once you store a 0 there, I don't know a lot about this stuff. I just know once I stored a 0 there, the music stopped. And it wasn't that the music stopped. I wasn't sometimes when the music was playing and if you didn't store a 0 at 54296, that last tone would continue playing. So it was like ding until you did the 0, and then I guess that turned off the voice, or at least the volume. So anyhow, let's check out the other version that I have that runs in the program interrupt. All right, so this is the version with the song playing in the background as a program interrupt, and it doesn't start, I believe, until you hit the title screen. Could be mistaken. Yeah, so right here we're on the pre-intro screen. This is originally how I had it, where it just scrolls across the top, and then when you hit the space bar, oops. Then the song starts. It might be good, I was thinking just during, see you have that issue where when you need to go, the interrupt pauses. But I actually find the go back to tab. Anyway, I find that I don't want to force a song down anyone's throat, especially if it's terrible. So if I just thought it'd be better if it runs during the pre-introduction screen while you're reading the message scrolling across the top, and if you don't want to listen to it, you hit the space bar and you play the game. And also, the problem that I ran into using the music routine was that it interfered with the random routine, because the randomizer that I'm using is utilizing those same registers. So I have a call to the init random to initialize the randomizer, and then I had to add a second call to it later on in the program when you exit the pre-introduction screen. And so here's the registers that the random number generator kind of uses, and it works really well. So I don't really want to change that up. So anyhow, that was my escapade into adding the music. And in the next segment, I am going to demonstrate how I actually compose the music and using SID Tracker. So sit back and I hope you enjoy that.